Today is Wednesday, March 5th, 2025, and this is a poetry reading featuring the Hong Kong poet Yam Gong with his co-translators, Dorothy and James Shea.
加上大概4、5歲光景吧。那年我病得沉重，迷糊中一個東莞女人給我喊驚，一尺布、一碗水、一些穿戴雜物排在我床前，火盆紅紅的燒。父母親在煙霧中走過，人影彤彤，我的兄弟姊妹愁容慘淡，走馬燈般繞在我床前轉。我看見我的靈魂隨同我前生的小書友到忘川溪水。母親說：那時你真嚇人，全身冰凍，只有鼻翼起伏在響，聽見賣白糖糕的叫聲，才睜開眼睛凄楚地笑。後來呢，母親？後來你批判社會，我們遠遠看着你一天天痊癒了。
Daily life. I was maybe 4 or 5 when I became seriously ill. In my delirium, a woman from Dongguan wailed for my soul's return. 1 foot of cloth, 1 bowl of water, clothes burning brightly in a brazier at the foot of my bed. My parents walked amid the smoke. Through flickering silhouettes, my worried brothers and sisters spun around my bed like horses on a revolving lantern. I saw my soul following schoolmates from a former life, playing in the river of forgetfulness. Mother said,
"You had us scared. Your body was ice cold. The trembling of your nostrils, the only sound. Not until you heard the sound of the spongy cake seller did you open your eyes and smile grimly."
And then what, Mother?
Then you came to judge the world. We were watching you from far away, and day by day, you recovered.
新田地，我已完全不認得了新田地。當新田的時候，光赤的屁股曾暖洋洋的躺在曬整整一季下午呢。風的鹽粒，海的微滑，加上少年肝膽。誰要是從渡輪上拋下一角，撲通撲通的浪花裏，不用嘴含着，就不再冒出頭來，立志做野孩子流浪，從一條駁艇到另一條駁艇。那時，一大嶙峋的石上，每當夜幕低垂，便站着一個穿班衣的燒王，吹涼幽幽圓圓，一盞盞大光燈，便有生鬼七、鬼斧神工鉗一並木鋸在二郎腿上，運弓拉響，一段段舟船，揀人擠的地方轉，像一匹小鼠，在汗濕的脅下、尿濕的胯下，瞪眼便見外江佬吞大石卵，吐出來大血。行船仔賣金烏蠅，白殼老手放一塊塊磚頭在額上砸碎，用7節鋼鞭鞭一節節的自己，然後塗叫賣的酒藥。而夜如是，5毫錢衣5爐7箱，1毫錢一片香口膠，着到永遠。曉不鑼鼓中，勞苦大眾都是落魄書生，嗨嗨賣涼果的花旦，生活便又平凡又摧殘。那時年紀小，太不像話，無語也去聽一出出鹹濕笑話。 滿腦子牽動神秘的預言，神秘的掌故，什麼老糠沉底大石鋪頭，狼圖不盡諸葛孔明舌戰劉白溫，驚奇的眼睛隨一柄紙扇一開一合，逢人會問500年前知有你，你今知道有誰人？何從沒問過說書人格林童話安徒生？便這樣縱橫闖蕩尋師學劍，直到一天晴天霹靂，忽然大火燒起，燒了紅蓮寺，又燒了對面一棟3層旅店，燒死班衣燒王趙田雞阿耳，拆字文卜一群鬼谷神算，唱歐西歌的唐西蘇小小。那一家大細茅山師傅，一家大細無一幸免，只剩得一個企街姑姑，依然企立海邊。生涯啊，教他相信18年後會重逢，一個面善或不面善的男子。
Reclamation. I don't recognize it anymore, this reclaimed land. When it was first filled in, my warm, naked butt lays there under the afternoon sun for an entire summer. Salt in the wind, charm of the sea, and youthful guts. If someone tossed a coin from the ferry, you'd hear us plashing into the waves, emerging only when the coin was between our teeth. Resolved to be a wild stray, I'd roam from sampan to sampan. Back then, when night fell, the flute king stood on an outcropping in a spotted cloak, blowing a light into each gloomy paraffin lamp. Then came Mr. Lively Ghost No. 7, bent over a handsaw, and with an uncanny knack, drawing a nimble bow across to play Zhou Xuan songs, one after another. I'd wriggle into the most congested places, like a little mouse, under a sweaty armpit, under a piss-soaked crotch, watching with bulging eyes a northerner swallowing a large egg-shaped stone and spit it back up with blood. A young boatman buying Spanish fly, a grizzled old man smashing bricks on his forehead, lashing each limb with a 7-sectioned whip, then rubbing on the tinctures he hawks, night after night.
50 cents cures a dozen pains, 10 cents for a piece of gum.
Chewed forever among the cymbals and gongs, the laboring masses all down and out scholars from an ancient story, brushing up against a street opera actress buying fruit candy. And so a life is ordinary and radiant. In those days I was young and improper, braving the rain just to hear some dirty jokes, head trembling full of cryptic prophecies and cryptic tales.
Dried husks sinking and large stone bubbling.
The endless waves never washed away the contest between Zhuge Liang and Liu Bowen. With astonished looks, we followed the storyteller's fan opening and closing as he asked every bystander,
500 years ago, I knew about you. Who in the future do you know today?
But no one ever asked him about Grimm or Anderson. And so it was, searching everywhere for a sword teacher, until one day, like a bolt out of the blue, a great fire broke out, burning down the Red Lotus Temple and burning down a 3-story hotel across the street, burning to death the flute king in his speckled coat, the all-seeing palm reader, the fortune teller with his cards, the psychic and their fellow diviners, Tiny Sue from Shek Tong Choi, who sang Western songs, that entire family of the Taoist shaman, that entire family. No one was spared. Only an auntie of the night remained, still standing by the seaside. Ah, this life teaches her to believe that she will be reunited in 18 years with a man who has a familiar face or an unfamiliar face.
鹹魚店14行。掉在那裏很久了，那鹹魚。上工頭一天，我用叉把它掛起來，我便想，這鹹魚肉質彬彬的，任誰都會揀去它吧。但它一天天掉在那裏，直挺挺的，一丁點兒鹽也沒見掉下來。今天該有人揀去它了。每天早上看着它，每天我都這樣想，我每天都這樣想，這樣想，漸漸變成了我每天的希望，直到今天老闆過來跟我說：你呆頭呆腦像條鹹魚似的，明天不用上工了。
The Salted Fish Shop, a sonnet. It hung there for a long time, that salted fish. On the first day of work, I used a pole to hang it up, and I started thinking, this salted fish is so handsome. Surely someone is going to pick it. But day after day it hung there upright, and not a single grain of salt fell. Today someone should pick it. Looking at it every morning, I thought every day the same thing, every day I looked at it. And slowly it became my hope each day, until my boss came to me today and said,
You look as dumb as a salted fish. Don't bother coming back tomorrow. A foxtail in 7 parks.
touched by your glance back, returning home in evening snow.
1. She appeared in her doorway like an enchanted fox, and not without resentment, said,
Mister, your pursuit has caused me much suffering.
2. A seat of light, a spotless room, a night undressed. Under the lamp she unrolled and read an unfinished draft of his poems. At once she turned her head and murmured,
This ancient rite existed even before poetry.
3. Aided by moonlight, she removed her head, combing it in front of a mirror. Awakened from a dream, he saw her.
Why didn't you scream?
She said absently.
It's your head, not my head.
He replied absently. 4. With an enchanted smile, she grabbed his head and removed it, embracing their pair of heads with her hands.
You're still smiling.
Her head looked more surprised than his head.
I just really like the way my head fits, snug in your hand.
5. Back inside the dream, she exchanged his head with her head and leaned her face against his, teasing.
Any complaints now, mister? No.
Half asleep and half awake, he replied teasingly.
My head's still mine, and I'm gaining your body.
6. As the sky dawned, she began to cry.
Our time is over, but how can I leave you? Just go.
He said,
Just go as you are. Your half will remain with me. My half will follow you for eternity to the ends of the earth.
7. Stepping out of the wooden door, she turned her head with longing.
Won't this cause you suffering, mister? How should I put it, my love? This was a long-buried wish well before that night when the foxes violated the rules of heaven.
He turned his head heavily and step by step returned to the dream.
我有面頰，我有面頰，但求一吻；我有嘴唇，但求可吻。 但任我的面頰如何遷就，任我的嘴唇如何追殺，任轉動的頭如何飛快，任他們本來如何接近。
I have cheeks. I have cheeks just needing a kiss. I have lips just needing to kiss. But no matter how my cheeks oblige, no matter how my lips persist, no matter how fast my head spins round, no matter how close they are to each other.
雅願，死因聆訊，因為我中途缺席，你被剝奪發言的權利。戰爭再一次血腥地被無望的和平打斷。我曾目睹無色蒼茫的界碑，抹去又重寫的無字銘。這是關乎萬民的訊息，但我回來只是聆聽，再不會宣説。
Mute wish. A hearing on the cause of death. Since I absented myself, halfway through, you were deprived of the right to speak. Once again, war was bloodily interrupted by a hopeless peace. I have witnessed a boundary stone in the twilight hour, its epitaph erased and rewritten. It was a message concerning all people, yet I will return only to listen and proclaim nothing.
An occasion arises, and I can look at you. Amid the mountains, looking at you. Amidst the waters, looking at you. An occasion arises, and I can look at you. Looking at you, I lose the good things. Looking at you, I lose the bad things. An occasion arises, I look at you. Amid the mountains, losing the mountains. Amidst the water, losing the waters. Amidst being, losing being. Amidst you, I lose myself. An occasion arises, and I lose an entire world at my fingertips, looking at you, losing you, and yet looking at you. 機遇到來，我得以望着你，在山中望着你，在水中望着你。機遇到來，我得以望着你，望着你，我失去好的東西，望着你，我失去壞的東西。機遇到來，我望着你，在山中失去山，在水中失去水，在中失去在你中失去我自己。機遇到來，我失去隨手可得整個世界，望着你，望着你，失去你，然而望着你。
你來就是我思故我是道路， 你來就是，你來傾訴就是，你來拉直它就是，你來打個結，未嘗不可以。Just come along. I think, therefore, I am the way, the role. Just come along. Just come along to sweep up. Just come along to pull it straight. Why don't you come to make a knot?
Blind drifting. My destination was blindness. I arrived before setting off.
I'm blind, therefore I drift.
Drift toward the west, drift toward the east, drift toward the south, drift toward the north, drift toward the shock of the future, drift toward the return of the origin.
I'm blind, therefore I drift.
Drift toward red, drift toward orange, drift toward indigo, drift toward yellow, drift toward green, drift toward blue, drift toward violet, drift above a rainbow, drift inside a black hole.
I'm blind, therefore I drift.
Drift toward 1, drift toward 2, drift toward 3, drift toward 4, drift toward 5, drift toward 6, drift toward established order, drift toward unestablished constraints.
I'm blind, therefore I drift.
Drift toward A, drift toward B, drift toward A, B, C, D, Z, E, drift toward a suitable tilting, drift toward a more suitable toppling.
I'm blind, therefore I drift.
Drift toward the left, drift toward the right, drift toward the front, drift toward the back, drift toward the boulevard of no self, no ego, no unrighteousness. Drift toward the maze of no origin, no reason, no endpoint without its extremity.
I'm blind, therefore I drift.
Drift toward the advancing snare. Drift toward the lagging ravine. Drift toward the structure of sound and light. Drift toward ornamentations and talismanic scripts. Drift toward the gateway of fame and fortune. Drift toward the cracks in authority and power. Drift toward disintegrating constructions and liberating prisons. Drift toward orderly joy and deviant sorrow.
I'm blind, therefore I drift.
Drift toward circularity. Drift toward seesawing. Drift toward solidity. Drift toward the void. Drift toward outward and inward clarity. Drift toward recurring curves. Drift toward the straightening after straightening. Drift toward the infinity of mirrored images. Drift toward nothingness and the critique of nothingness. Drift toward the movement of critique and the critique of critique.
I'm blind, therefore I drift.
Drift toward rapid decay. Drift toward aptitude. Drift toward agitation. Drift toward solemnity. Drift toward the alternating chill and heat of labor pains. Drift toward the womb of despair and hope. Drift toward heaven's station. Drift toward the gates of hell. Drift toward the appointed crime and punishment. Drift toward the promised dream, the promised redemption, the promised land, the promiser's promised embrace.
I'm blind, therefore I drift.
Drift toward the inevitable evil of history. Drift toward non-committal blood and tears. Drift toward the golden, the silver archives. Drift toward the red, the black memoranda.
I'm blind, therefore I drift.
Drift toward the
流向中
scattering
心時
center.
散，
Drift
流向
toward the
金
five
水火
elements.
土，
Drift
流向
toward the
宇宙
Big
大
Bang.
爆炸，
Drift
流向
toward the
宇宙
second
地
law of
定律，
thermodynamics.
流
Drift
向
toward the
悲劇的
birth
誕
of tragedy.
生，
Drift
流向
toward the
命
tinkering
運
of
波
fate.
動，
Drift
流向
toward the
獅身
riddle of
人
the
像的
Sphinx.
謎，
Drift
流
toward
向
the
魔
wailing
來
song of the
來
siren
歌曲，
Lorelei. Drift
流向
toward a
預
death
先爭嘅
foretold.
終命案，
Drift toward
流
a
向陰太
composition
陽
arranged by
所設定的
mishaps.
佈局，
Drift
流
toward
向
the
那現實
unbearable
的
lightness.
輕，
Drift
流
toward
向
the
留意中
unbearable
心的
heaviness.
重，
Drift
流向
toward the
更難
even
言
more
受的
unbearable silence of the
眾神之
gods, the
眾人
thunderous
之
applause of
掌
the
聲
people.
雷動。
I drift, therefore I'm blind.
Drifting toward an innate obsession, drifting toward unbearable lightness, the perfectly matched grand reprisal, drifting toward indescribable anguish in that instant of radiance and darkness when I gouge out my eyes. Wong Dai Dik San Yi. Wang Dai Chun Sung San Yi, Lo Chut Liu, Mo Ying Dik Sao, Jie Bei Mat, Choi Lioi Na Hai Ji, Chun Guok Dik Lam Loi, Do Ji Do, So Yi Ta Mun, Yu Chi Yat Ji, Yam Yao Hao Sai Chi Siu.
The emperor's new clothes. The emperor put on his new clothes and exposed an invisible hand. Except for the child, all the people in the kingdom knew this secret, which is why altogether they bear the laughter of their descendants.
Startling hair. The swirling poles of the barber shop swirl at greater and greater speed. Some lie horizontally now, smashing the norm. Some have become rings with added colors. They used to wash our hair after cutting it. Now the order's reversed. Mother had insisted on our heads being shaved bare. She smiles in the mirror at our faces in tears. Sweet-smelling talcum powder from a feathery brush. Comic books commandeered on laps. Pages flipping as if blown by the wind. Across the arms of the barber's chair rests a wooden board. We sit up straight with pride, though sometimes we grumble, hoping for a day when it can be cast aside. Before and behind the mirror, people come and go. Within and beyond the mirror, spring flowers bloom and the autumn moon wanes. Hairstyles evolve, each one timelier than the last. Holding up a mirror, I admire myself more and more each time, until one day, shaking the endless hair clippings from our necks, we're startled by the absence of Mother's face, in a mirror full of faces. I turn around abruptly in a panic, but fortunately, I see Mother just walking in from the alley, bringing the soft, light feeling of a barber's brush and the sweet-smelling memories of talcum powder, even though her hair turned white overnight, and we brothers don't look in the mirror much anymore. So that's why we know nothing, why it seems we know nothing.
經法理髮店的旋轉標誌旋轉得越來越急速，有的橫放打破規格，有的變作圓環，多了些顏色。從前剪了發財洗頭，現在次序顛倒。母親硬要我們的頭剪得光脱脱的，那時我們哭喪着臉，她卻朝鏡子裏笑。軟綿綿的毛絨球，香撲鼻的爽身粉，連環圖一本本掛在膝上，一頁頁如風吹歇。理髮椅的扶手橫架一塊木板，坐在上面挺威風的，我們又每每老怨，想望一天隨手可把它扔掉。鏡子前後人來人往，鏡子裏外春花秋月，善變的髮色一次比一次趨時，攬鏡自照一次比一次更鍾愛自己。直到一天，紙上抖落未盡細碎的髮屑，我們驚覺鏡裏眾多容顏，獨不見母親。猛然轉過頭來，慌亂中幸好見母親剛從巷口走進，且帶來輕軟融融毛絨球的感覺和爽身粉般香撲鼻的記憶。雖則他的鬢髮一夜白了，而我們兄弟多人近日少從鏡裏回望，所以一無所知，彷彿一無所知。
And so you look at festival lights along the street, never meeting as life goes on, always like stars, Scorpius, and Orion. Then what evening is this? with fireworks so resplendent.
Returning to your apartment, you find you've lost your key. Did you try turning the door handle? The sound of a jiggling handle tells you there are no miracles, or there's a miracle inside that you can't see. You think of the nearest friend. From the nearest to the farthest, they've all gone out to see the fireworks. Looking at festival lights along the street, you're not used to every light bulb brightening for you. You're not used to those fawning bells and numerous colors, convincing you of pure merriment. But you join along with the joyful hymns, recalling a sock hanging in front of iron bars on an endless night. Was it humor or irony from the prisoner? But you know the greatest joke is when you come back and all of your comrades are out. Tonight the fireworks are resplendent, and you're sure if they'd known, they would have stayed home and called for their wives and children to be introduced to you one by one amid various wallpapers and merriments. And yet mist rises from the corner of your eye as you know that while far away, it may be worth struggling for, worth restraining and refining oneself for, worth fighting for, every once in a while, this joy of being on parole. And so you look at festival lights along the street and gradually get used to the gaze of holiday lights and how they try to please you.
於是你沿街看節日的燈飾，人生不相見，動如心與傷。今夕復何夕，煙花多璀璨。回到家門口才發覺，丟失了鑰匙，有沒有轉動門的把手呢？門的把手轉動的聲音告訴你沒有奇蹟，或者奇蹟在屋內，你沒法看見。你的心想到一個最近的朋友，最近的朋友，以至最遠的朋友，這夜都外出看煙花了。你沿街看節日的燈飾，你不大習慣每一顆燈泡為你而光亮。你不太習慣那些淺微多顏色的鐘說服你單純的快樂，但你也哼出普天頌讚的調子，懷想掛在鐵窗前的襪子，漫漫長夜不知是囚徒的幽默，還是囚徒的諷刺。但你知道更大的幽默是當你回來，同志們都外出，今夜煙花燦爛，而你確信，要是他們知道，定會留守屋內召喚妻兒，一一介紹給你各款長子和快樂。而你的眼角有霧升起，知道雖然遙遠，卻值得奮鬥，值得為此而收斂自己、修飾自己，值得爭取這每隔一段日子被假釋的喜悅。於是你沿街看節日的燈飾，也漸漸習慣讓節日的燈飾看你，取悅你。